Alexey Ivanov, director of the BRICS International Competition Law and the Policy Center at the National Research University Higher School of Economics, became the idealist of the creation of the Anti Monopoly Center of the BRICS countries, which brought the interaction of the competition authorities of the five countries to a quantitatively new level, including on such issues as the coordination of economic concentration transactions and the joint investigations in global market. He is the author of many works and competition law and on the legal aspects of the development of agriculture technologies. Alexey Yurich, hello. Thank you very much for your invitation to come here to the Higher School of Economics, to the main building, and thanks again for the time you gave us. Thank you for coming, Alexey Yurich. You head the BRICS International Competition Law and Policy Center at the Higher School of Economics. A little bit about the history. Why was the center created? When? And what are its main tasks and goals?
The original document that laid the foundation for the creation of the BRICS Competition Center was the agreement that was signed in St. Petersburg in 2016. Within the framework of the St. Petersburg International Legal Forum, it's a large international format, heads of BRICS anti-monopoly institutions. All heads of anti-monopoly authorities of the BRICS countries came to the St. Petersburg and we have solemnly signed this agreement. This agreement provided for deeper cooperation between BRICS competition authorities. The format of joint working groups, steering committee have all been defined. Among other things, it was envisaged to set up a competition center to coordinate and assist in this work and to include academic scientific expertise in the work of anti-monopoly authorities. Thus, gradually in 2017, the President of Russia decided to support this initiative. Then there was a series of exchanges between our colleagues in BRICS. We received support from other countries, and in 2020, this center was already converted into a whole mechanism of interstate cooperation in the competition sphere. And you could say that our center traces its lineage back to 220. Not lineage, but rather the date of birth of the organization I am currently heading is 220. But its history, its lineage stretches back to 2015 when the idea appeared during Russia's BRICS presidency. 2015 was the period of Russia's presidency when we as a country suggested this idea. In 2016, as I already said, the agreement was signed, and in 2020 we began to operate as an independent organizational unit within the Higher School of Economics on the basis of an order from the Russian government. In fact, the first idea to create the BRICS Competition Center and deepen cooperation I did not come from Russia. The first initiator was South Africa. Then it was actively supported by the colleagues from India, from Brazil in 2017 at a large BRICS conference on competition law in Brazil. Gradual forward movement was announced, and as a result of 2016 agreement signed in St. Petersburg, it has been enshrined in a number of decisions by the anti-monopoly authorities. So it was quite inclusive and generally cooperative. A really full-fledged BRICS level of decision, a full-fledged decision by the BRICS states, it was to certain extent obvious that such a cooperation is necessary.
About that, yes, indeed. All right, then the main goals of the main operational structure.
Anti-monopoly sphere is getting increasingly globalized. It's a process that has been lasting for several decades. But competition law, unlike the markets we work with, and markets as you see, they are global, the economy is global, it is massive, and competition law is still national, working with national borders. And we do not have a single global international agreement to protect competition in the global market. Although we do have agreements within the UN to support investment, trade, intellectual property protection, these are agreements that have an international universal character. Competition protector, on the other hand, is localized at the national level. There is no such intergovernmental agreement, but the markets are global. There is this resonance global economy, global markets, and local anti monopoly regulations. global monopolies and local anti-monopolies regulations. This dissonance has to be dealt with. Western states, rich developed economies, they unite in various formats. There is OECD, Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, which has two competition committee. They are very well working bilateral agreements between the us and the EU. For example, they allow them to make joint coordinated decisions on global phenomena such as global monopolies today on global markets and to work with such challenges to the normal functioning of the market economy with anti-monopoly challenges jointly. They have enough tools for that, but the countries, let's say in the developing world, the countries that have founded their representation in the BRICS community and in similar organizations, they have virtually no such tools. For many years, you could say until I don't know, the first half of the 2000s, the logic of the development of a competition law around the world. Maybe until the mid 2000s, probably our countries, the BRICS countries, the developing world, they were more like, what do you call it? They were adopting antitrust law. They were what they call takers, not makers. That is rule takers, rule makers. There is such a concept in international law. We have legally adopted the logic of others, the logic of the westerns, developed world in terms of the functioning of markets, economies, antitrust regulations without creating platforms that would bring us together in some space of trust to develop joint common approaches for developing countries. And it is clear that global challenges, global markets, global monopoly requires some kind of coordination, requires some kind of unification. In fact this is where the idea came from to create the BRICS competition center, which would help anti-monopoly regulations to work on global challenges and threats and global economic issues.
Okay, what are the main areas of your center's research and what relevance do they currently have for BRICS?
Within the framework of the agreement which was signed in 2016, several working groups on so-called socially important markets were formed by the BRICS competition authorities. This is working group on food markets, on the digital economy, on what can be described as the digitalization of economic life. On the pharmaceutical market, the market for pharmaceuticals and medical devices, on industrial markets, on industrial corporation, and a working group on exchange trading has now been set up. There is also a working group in the UNICTAD format. It's a part of BRICS Plus on the unplatform of cartels, on combating cross-border cartels. These working groups comprise primarily on representatives of competition authorities. Also by our organization, the BRICS Competition Center include representatives of academic community for all the BRICS countries. That is, we attract scientists, anti-monopoly expert, people who deal with the issues from different BRICS universities. We have created a sustainable coordination network. We could say a platform of universities from the BRICS countries and a number of other global universities which are involved in the progressive agenda in the competition field. Together we are developing approaches and solutions for making the work of competition agencies in the areas I have mentioned: food, pharmaceuticals, digitalization, stock exchange, cartels, and other more effective. In other words, we especially help the competition authorities to develop joint approaches, improve their cooperation, and make decisions that are more in the interest of our countries.
And why should monopolies be fought at all?
Why fight monopolies? Well, look, we live in a market economy. The capitalist system won. As you know, in the competition with the socialist system at one time. In the capitalist system, there is the problem that the buildup of market power, which is rather normal for any economic entity, at a certain stage becomes a problem for functioning of the entire market system, because if there is too much market power, you know how too much of even good things can be very bad, and market's power is relatively a good thing. In other words, it is attractive to an economic entity with market power, but it creates distortions in the development of the economy. creates the potential of dictate and imposes its own conditions which are often not beneficial to consumers or counterparties. Market power, it makes the economy entity which has to operate under the same BRIC rules that apply to the market participants. It makes it privileged, exclusive, it brings them closer to the public authorities in some ways. They can impose their will, define dictate. Such monopolies we see all too often. It's a problem for the capitalist system. Why? Because the capitalist system, on the one hand, pushes entrepreneurs of economic entities to make money, to become stronger, bigger, richer, and so on. On the other hand, when they reach a certain level and start behaving, and with that power, market power is still power. It's called market power, economic power, but it doesn't stop being power anyway, and that power gives them the opportunity to abuse their position in the market, which has a very strong impact on the interest of consumer. They pay more for horse products and so on and so forth. Such a market power and its abuse hinders development, innovation. It prevents former economic relations between healthy economic entities. Everyone tries to become a monopoly. Cartelization takes place. There are a lot of such negative things. It is like, in a sick body, all the ills pop out. For the economic capitalist system to be healthy, it has to have a life force. Competition is the life energy of capitalism. As long as it is there, the organism is healthy, it can function and allows the capitalist system to develop. There is innovation, new offerings, new product, consumer get what they want. The best and the most important thing actually happens for today's stage of human development. You and I are living in such a difficult transition period. Climate changes our population, we are now approaching crisis of food supply and so on. The issue of efficient use of resources is very acute. For a long time we have been living in a format of we will grow indefinitely. The earth resources are limitless. We can pump subsoil as much as we want, cut down forest and so on, and we won't get in any trouble, and economic growth is endless. And for quite some time now we have understood that this is not possible. It is necessary to build an effective resources management system. The administrative system, what is called a planned economy, has proven to be extremely efficient in terms of the use of resources. We have seen this, how Soviet enterprises worked, how Soviet distribution system worked. Terrible losses, efficiency, mismanagement. The capitalist system is fundamentally a more efficient distributor of resources and more efficient mechanism for resource use, the management, but it also malfunctions and it also tends to have serious issues. Competition, it is the mechanism or the life force, if you will, that makes this use of resources and the system more efficient. This in fact is very important. So yes, protecting competition, fighting monopolies, this is probably this fundamental basis task, the basis, if you like, for the existence of normal healthy market system. Our contribution, by the way, in Article 34 explicitly prohibits any economic activity aimed monopolizing economic life. This is very important article, often forgotten, but it is in the foundations of our constitutional order. I think it should be revised and throw about more often. This is taking about Russia and around the world. The same basic principle of competition protection are enshrined at a very high level and at the level of basic intergovernmental agreements, but they are not turned into, shall we say, a real mechanism for managing global process. That is why we are forced to try to influence global process as well from the regional BRICS position.
Tell us what projects have already been implemented, how successful have they been, and what impact have they had on the BRICS countries?
I think our most prominent project was in the area of food policy. In the protection of competition on the food market, we started this work in 2015. Under the Russian BRICS presidency, we announced the creation of a working group from the competition agencies on food. and we have begun research work on analyzing the state of competition in global food markets. As a result of this work, we published this book, Global Food Values Change and Competition Law. It was published by Cambridge University Press. This is a fairly detailed analysis of the state of competition in global food market, or more precisely what are called global food values chains that form values in food. The food market is very global. Few people actually reflect on this, although we face it all the time. You go to any shop and there are bananas for Ecuador, and all of our well or a significant part of our livestock production depends on soybean meal. Well, often we do not reflect, but it's really true. We have a huge globalization precisely through the creation of values chains, that is through the supply chains of various goods means of production above all, very much globalized. And if you take for example Russian crop production, grain production, it is very much export oriented on the one hand, and on the other hand it is highly dependent on the supply of seeds, agrochemicals, various kinds of other technological solutions, including in the field of digitalization of agriculture. In other words, it is a full fledged global chain. We started this research work. The anti monopoly agencies were actively feeding the data they had on the state of competition in creation regional market, and we methodologically tried to put in into a global economic context. Basically this was the key task. As a result, we prepared a big report which was converted into this book, as I said other. But along the way we helped the anti-monopoly agencies in their practical work to resolve one of the most important deal in the agribusiness, the agro-technology sector, the member of two powerful gains conglomerates involved in the production of the latest biotech seeds. These are high yield, high producing seeds, agrochemicals, and digital agribusinesses solution. These are the three basic pillars on which crop production, agriculture production is based today. The company controls huge shares of the global market, and we present in all BRICS countries to varying degrees, and our work coordinating support, let's say, helping the anti-monopoly agencies to develop common approaches. It allowed us to make completely innovative decisions on this transaction. New approaches to market analysis were applied. New methods of anti-poly response, what is called, these are very important steps towards changing the approach to we continue the work on the food market. The BRICS anti-monopoly agencies had developed a rather sustained interest, I would say an appetite for this kind of work on food markets. Just the September, we did a big event in South Africa as part of the biggest African competition conference they have every year. We had a big plenary session and discussed the problems of food markets, especially now. This is very important. In fact, food markets are manufacturing logistics chains, are manufacturing very high price volatility. Intermediaries play a major role, including intermediaries who make money from speculations. This is a very common phenomenon in global gains market, especially a big role played by the traders who also work on exchanges through all sorts of derivative financial instruments. These problems are quite complex and very much world class. That is to say, it is a full fledged big world market. Both the consumer and the producer suffer from this phenomena on the food markets. We are dealing with it in detail now. We had a focus on means of production seeds. We have been very much involved in the seed breeding industry. Now we are focusing a lot on distribution issues, trading, grain trading on a large scale on a global level, and exchange trading. It is very interlinked here.
You have the trade mechanism in commerce going on now. And further, will any other sectors be affected as well?
We also work in parallel in the pharmaceutical sector. We have done a lot to coordinate the efforts of the BRICS anti-monopoly agencies during the COVID pandemic on intellectual property issues. As you may know, India and South Africa, later joined by Russia, collectively took the initiative to remove patent protection on vaccines. There was a very big decision on the two platform during the pandemic. A lot was done on upgrading and working out a compulsory licensing mechanism. At our initiative, with our methodological help, we have a lot of work going on with the digital focus group. It has never stopped. This is an ongoing project to analyze the state of competition in digital market and in general how digitalization affect competition policy. Back in 2018, we and our colleagues including from the BRICS countries developed a proposal to change the Russian legislation. The fifth anti-monopoly package, so called, it has now been passed by the State Duma in its first reading. It took quite a long time. But nevertheless, we published a report in 2019 on digital markets and a book on this topic, how digitalization affect anti-monopoly policy. We decided how antitrust regulation of phenomena such as digital ecosystems currently works. We have been running this project for 2 years now. 2 years probably, yes, almost 2 years. The bottom line is that digital ecosystem, such a new phenomenon in economic life, have changed the way the market economy is organized. Many say the digital ecosystem should fall out of antitrust regulation. They really do get out of control a lot, building up tremendous market power, influencing the state of affairs and the performance of small and medium sized business and consumers. And we have now looking at how digital ecosystem can be better immersed in the plane of normal, healthy, effective competition policy. But other projects that are, so to speak, more fancy, more abstract, more scientific, related, for example, to digital ecosystem, still they are experienced precisely as concrete, applied, related to people's lives, stories, because we all live in this digital ecosystem without fully understanding how much they affect our lives, often manipulating our behavior. Consumers are very much dependent on this complex organized digital cocoons. They are being built around them. This often blocks the development of small and medium sized business in countries of Africa, fast growing countries. By the way, not many regions in the world show this kind of growth dynamics. Where, by the way, consumption is changing a lot. There are not many countries now where there is a big influx of now online users, but in Africa this is happening. We want to create an honest, comfortable environment of immersion in this digital ecosystem. So when you work with some real human stories, some real life, it's energizing and it's actually bonding. And how do you say, you want to do it despite all the difficult conditions we are in.
Especially when there is a result, a visible, obvious, tangible result.
Obviously, we are very focused on this. In fact, these working groups, they don't just sit around for nothing. They meet to better understand the anti-monopoly issues in one area or another. And our academic corporation, scientific state corporation, we call it the academic authority partnership. This mechanism we have but allows agencies to be more confident in taking socially beneficial decisions.
Which BRICS countries are the easiest to cooperate with?
We actually have very good relation with all of them, and there is fairly effective communication with all of them. Each one has its own personalities. Some have more scientific academic approach, some are more bureaucratic and formalized, some are more active, some are more passive, but that doesn't mean that this makes the work less effective. We just adjust ourselves. Our main task is to coordinate efforts. We are five very different states with very different histories, with very different models of governance, traditions, cultures, and so on. That's what makes our work really interesting, because we try to take from each country, its academic community, and its regular, what they can bring to this work.
All right, then, Alexey Yuvrich, thank you very much for this really interesting interview. Follow your work, and I wish you success, prosperity, and good big projects ahead. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Svetlana. We are very glad to see you in our university. Hope to see you soon. Thank you.